Petey Williams, we have the Young Bucks coming up here in a second, but first let's talk about Blue Chew. I want to get this out of the way. Blue Chew has been one of our favorite sponsors here. I am an avid user of Blue Chew, although you young buck, Petey Williams, you don't need it just yet, but I'm telling you, you need to get on this Blue Chew. I love it. It's the first chewable tablet that enhances your bedroom experience. It's made from the same FDA ingredients as Cialis and Viagra. It's a chewable, so that means it works twice as fast. You know, Pete, you know what you and I are? We're curtain jerkers.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm a curtain jerker. You're a mid-carder in the Young Bucks.
Okay.
Are main eventers, right?
I guess we could say it like that.
I use Blue Chew to get to the main event status in my bedroom.
Well, I mean, the Young Bucks, I wonder if they use Blue Chew. I mean, are they always going to be the Young Bucks? Are they going to be the old Bucks one day?
No.
If they use Blue Chew, they'll always be the Young Bucks main event.
Forever Young in my mind, Pete. Forever Young. That should be a song. It is. Anyways.
I think it is, yeah.
Anyways, go to BlueChew.com. Use the promo code WPP. You get your first order for free. You just pay $5 for shipping and handling. Look, I know what that $5 means. It means this month you're not going to get your Young Bucks pin or your Young Bucks hat, or you may have to pass up on a Young Bucks shirt. But look, those things will still be there. This, Blue Chew, they come and go. You see them advertise on all these different wrestling podcasts. They'll advertise Hot and Heavy for a month and then disappear for 3 months and then come back to that podcast. They're sticking around with us. And that's because we have nice, loyal fans that may not even need Blue Chew, but they're like, hey, you know what? It's $5. I support PD and Dennis. I'm going to go off and do that. So go spend your $5. It's the holiday season. You know what, PD? Let me ask you a question. What do you get the guy who has everything except a great sexual experience?
Probably Blue Chew.
A Nintendo Switch. Anyways. Yes, Blue Chew. So, ladies, if you're listening, get your man the Blue Chew. Make him feel like a main eventer in bed. Men, look, are you tired of feeling like the third member of Demolition, Axe, Smash, and Crush? You don't have to no longer be the third member of Demolition or the third member of Legion of Doom. Remember that whole gimmick?
Who was the? Oh yeah, Draws. I remember that. Oh,
so
okay.
So don't be the third member of any group. Be the first member. Be the leader. Be your own Triple H in bed. You don't have to put anybody over anymore with Blue Chew because when you're done, you always come out on top. Hey, did you like that?
Yeah, you always come out on top. Is that their catchphrase or
that's mine?
Did you make that up?
I just made that up. All right.
They're good.
All right. So, and by the way, speaking of buying shirts, you can go to whatforapparel.com/WPP. Where our store is quickly growing. We added a new shirt up there, and there will be another one coming up here in a day or two. Just jokingly, Pete, I threw out a tagline that said, get these mics, right? I didn't know if you thought that was cute or funny or clever.
Yeah, no, that's clever. Like, get these hands, get these mics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's quick, it's easy. Kind of like Blue Chew. We're off Blue Chew.
We're off Blue Chew. We're off.
Everything's set up for it. So.
But you could go to whatifapparel.com/WPP. There are two NWO style shirts. One with a mic, one kind of Canadian-ish, which someone bought a hoodie. By the way, thank you guys so much. This week there's going to be a Get These Mics shirt popping up in our store.
Ooh, so we need to get these shirts is what it should say. Get these shirts.
Send my kid to college.
That's our next one. Yeah.
I'm tired of working. Help me retire shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I need my pension. And pension shirt.
And we have our fan phone number, 231-930-2053. Pete, like I said, here in a few minutes, the Young Bucks are about to show up. We're getting them both at the same time. I'm excited for this, but there are a few burning issues that I want to talk to you about before we kind of jump into this podcast. For a couple podcasts before, you've mentioned how excited you were to talk about the Thanksgiving Day episode. It aired. It actually got a ton of viewership. First and foremost, let's just talk about the suit itself, because when you were in Las Vegas, and I don't know if I've told the story on this podcast, but Disco Inferno lives out there, and I'm a huge Disco Inferno fan.
Who isn't? I love Disco.
I'm self-admittedly. I even so much that I went out there from work, and he's a bouncer at a popular adult club out there. It's widely known. So I went to this adult club looking for him, not for the women, looking for Disco Inferno. Unfortunately, he wasn't there, and there was a mix-up where a waitress or a bartender not bartender, but a adult dancer tried to take me into the VIP area and get me for like $900, but that's no bueno on my part. But anyways, I didn't get to meet him. When you were in Las Vegas, I sent you a text that said, hey, is Disco Inferno around? And you never replied, and boom, the Thanksgiving Day episode, there he is.
I didn't reply?
No.
I must have been busy, and we talked since then. I mean, you could have just asked me, like, hey, man, you didn't reply, because I don't always reply to everything. I mean, it just, when I'm working, I'm working. I mean, I don't mean to kayfabe you or anything like that. But yeah, no, Disco is there. Yeah, absolutely.
I was happy that you didn't in the end, because I was surprised watching the Thanksgiving Day show that Disco Inferno pops up. But can you talk to me a little bit about how that came to be, that Disco was on the show?
Yeah, so Sanjay, who writes, primarily the show, we were in New York for Bound for Glory and stuff, and he just said to me, hey, you're never going to guess who's, or maybe I asked him, I said, hey, we're still doing the Thanksgiving episode coming up in Vegas. He goes, yes. Because I asked about how many, shows we're filming and stuff, and he said this many plus the Thanksgiving episode. And I said, who's wearing the turkey outfit this year? And he says, oh, it's a surprise. And I'm like, can I guess? He's like, whatever he said. I said, is it anybody here today? He's like, nope, nobody here today. Nobody currently on our roster. And I'm like, ooh, okay. And I said, has he ever worked here before? He's like, yes. So immediately, I don't know why I always say Amazing Red for everything. I said, Amazing Red. He goes, no, it's not Red. And I was trying to guess some, I don't remember all the other names, I guess. And then he says, stop. I'm not saying yes or no to any others. Just stop. It's going to be a surprise for you. And I'm like, come on, I got to know, because I want to know. And I didn't even think of, us being in Vegas, what local guys would be there that could drive in. I didn't even think of that. And I would have probably have guessed Disco Inferno, because he's local. He used to wrestle for Impact. So put two and two together, and it would have been him. So when I got the formats emailed me beforehand, and I saw the first thing, I didn't even care about the first couple shows. I just saw the Thanksgiving episode. Let's see who's wearing the turkey outfit. And I'm like, bam, Disco Inferno. I'm like, this is great. And it was his birthday that day too. And man, I'll tell you what, Glenn, he's just he's awesome. I mean, he knows his role and stuff, and he knows how to be, the butt end of the joke. And I thought the match itself was like a 25-minute long match. It was like half the episode, and there was funny in there. There was seriousness. There was good action. There was a little bit of everything in there. The ref got involved. It was a great match, and that's just something fun that I like watching, and it shouldn't be done all the time. It should be saved for that type of show, like Thanksgiving Day show. It's funny. We kind of put all the storylines aside, and this is our show. So it was great. I loved it.
Talk to me about your interaction with him off camera. Did you sit down? Did you talk to him? Because we talk about him in glowing light here on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it was very professional. We had to film a lot of the, when they were drawing the names for who's going to be on whose team. We did that. We had to film that. Usually our call time's not till noon. We had to start that at 9:30. So we had to have everybody come to this one certain room, because we had a lot to film those days. So we had to get it all out of the way. So, and I see him, and, I talked to him for a bit, and then I was just going through, I had the format with me and just telling everybody, hey, you're up after this person. We're going to film you after this person. Then I showed Glenn, I'm like, hey, this is kind of what they want you to say. And he's like, oh, yeah, text that to me really quick. So I texted to him. And I mean, that it was just professional. It was super professional stuff. I asked how things were going. And he was only there for the one day. I asked him, hey, you stopping by tomorrow? And he's like, I got to work and stuff. And okay. He's like, maybe after I'm done work. And he didn't show up. But it was great seeing him. I mean, I don't know if he's grown up a little bit, because usually back in the day, Disco would, come into the locker room, and then you just kind of sit there and wait, and they're like, oh, what stupid thing's he gonna say now? What funny thing? Yeah, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there was none of that. He just kind of like, and it's probably because he hasn't been in the locker room. He probably doesn't know anybody or is friendly with anybody there. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe he's grown up. So it wasn't the same Glenn, but it was really good seeing him again. I'm waiting for him. I'm like kind of egging him on. I'm like, all right, let's hear something funny. No.
That might be one of the interviews I'm excited about. We'll have to set that up, because we've interviewed some of the most coolest people, right? I mean, David Arquette, who we're going to talk about here in a second. We've got the Young Bucks, Johnny Impact. We've also interviewed Johnny Mundo. We've also interviewed who else? John Morrison. We've also interviewed John Hedigan. I mean,
yep. Johnny Nitro, I think we did too. I'm not sure.
Yep, Johnny Nitro. Don't forget Johnny Raw and Johnny SmackDown. No.
Yep. But all the Johnnies.
Jarrett, which we're coming around to about a year now. We should reach out and have Jarrett back on and see. I wonder, on a side note, before getting back to what I was saying, how different life is for Jeff Jarrett after going into the WWE Hall of Fame.
I mean, if I had to guess, I would probably say not much. I mean, he's
way to ruin it.
I mean, I don't know. I would think. I'm just guessing. Okay, I don't know. He could be like, "Oh, my whole life has changed and stuff, and I'm doing this, that, and the other thing." I mean, he's still doing, I believe, his like Global Force Wrestling and that kind of thing. So, I still think he's doing his thing. Everything that he was doing beforehand. Just now, he's just WWE Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett.
Nice. And by the way, I'm going to give Impact some props here, because one of the things I like that they're doing that I really loved, and once again, talked a million times about this on this podcast, is the different sets. I get tired of seeing the same Raw set every week. Then you go to a WWE pay-per-view, and it's the same Raw set for that pay-per-view, when back in the day, I think WCW was phenomenal at it. WWE did it some too, was different pay-per-views. The set was so built different and had different themes that it really did feel like a pay-per-view. Now it just feels like a Raw or a SmackDown with a different color theme.
Yeah, and I mean now, they used to have actual physical props set up. And now it's like, okay, they have a different since their LED Titantron, whatever it is so big. It used to just be one screen. Now there's sides on it, and it's all across, like huge. They just kind of decorate that with whatever graphic they want, probably because it's easier, more cost efficient. They could cut budget there, and it's same thing with Impact. I mean, hey, why have all these props out when we could just make a nice, cool screen and all that kind of stuff? But yeah, I mean, I miss the props because I like to see like, oh, that was cool, or they're in England. They have one of the England type buses or whatever with a lot of English stuff. I liked all that stuff. I did, but I mean, we're not living in that era anymore. There's a lot of stuff I miss about wrestling from 10, 15 years ago.
A lot of people have asked me to ask you about any updates on the TV contract, but I feel like I brought it up on this podcast just so you can say, I don't know. You'll find out when they do, probably.
Yeah, the only thing that I read on the internet was something about, and I don't know how true this is. This is, again, me reading on the internet. I'm not the guy that discusses TV contract with the TV providers. But it said something about Sci-Fi and True TV and WGN America, which is all great networks. I mean, I'm sure everybody listening to, this podcast right now has heard of all those networks. Before, I guess, people listening to this, before they start watching Impact, they probably never heard of Pop, because I know I haven't before. When Impact's like, hey, you're going to Pop, I'm like, what's Pop? I have to do some research on this. Sci-Fi, what's on Sci-Fi? SmackDown used to be on Sci-Fi. True TV, the big thing I watch on True TV is Impractical Jokers. Huge show. And then WGN America. I mean, that was one of the. Yeah, that's. Is that Boston or is that Chicago?
Chicago.
That's a Chicago one. Yeah, because I remember back when living in Canada, there was not a lot of channels, and then they had, we have these 4 new super stations coming out, they're called, on our cable provider. This is many years ago. And one of them was like WGN. The other one was like
TBS.
Los Angeles. Yeah, maybe it was TBS. There was a Boston one, which was, I don't remember what it was called, but I remember WGN being one of them. So they've been around for quite some time as well. So, I mean, landing on any of those, I feel would be beneficial to the company, in my opinion.
If I had to rank them as a fan, I'd probably go WGM. I think WGM holds the bigger name value. They had the All-In pre-show, I believe. They had the Cubs on that channel. For the most part, great programming. I might put Sci-Fi third, because I feel like if Impact went to Sci-Fi, they may have to adapt to a little bit more sci-fi kind of type of show, if that makes sense. And this just might be me as a fan speculating. And I love the Alley stuff and the Demon Bunny and all that stuff. I think it's great. I'm not knocking it. But if you went to Sci-Fi, I'd worry that you would get a little bit more of that might water down or change the feel of Impact.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Like when you look at and I don't watch Lucha Underground, but I hear from guys that work for Impact that have worked for Lucha Underground. Like Sami Callihan said, and I don't know how true this is, but he was like, after I watched at Bound for Glory, when I watched the Rosemary come back with the Su Yung and Allie, and there was she chopped her in the neck with an axe, and there was magic shooting out of hands, and I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And then Sammy said something like, yeah, I got, because I said about the axe to the neck, I'm like, we almost killed somebody on our show. And he's like, hey, on Lucha Underground, he says, they killed me, and then I came back as a zombie. And I'm like, what? So, if Lucha Underground could do it and kind of pull it off, then, if we adapt it a little bit, and even one like a Rosemary Sue or something like that, that'd be fine for our Sci-Fi type, just to appease the network. That's totally fine. I think it has its place in wrestling. People know that wrestling is, predetermined and stuff. So why not just a little bit, make it kind of a lot more, just a little bit more unrealistic.
Maybe. I think then, but you brought up Lucha Underground, you do that, then maybe you feel like you're ripping them off a little bit more, because I think they're a TV show about a wrestling company, was the way it was explained to me, and I think you and I were in the same room when someone was telling us about that. Let's move on. We haven't talked about this in the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure why, but I'm glad we haven't. As you know, the David Arquette death match thing happened, which got rave reviews. I know it scared the poop out of David Arquette, and he's, scaling back in his wrestling stuff. I've talked to him. I didn't want to have him on for this subject because I want this to be between me and you. And I know David, and I think I know he would probably take the politically correct line, whether he believed it or not. I don't know. But he gets put in this situation, and I've seen some people starting to come out that say, putting David Arquette in a death match, which is, first of all, for the most experienced wrestlers and even over their heads. I'm not a death match guy, but you put David Arquette in that match. That's a promoter taking advantage of David Arquette, which that match was put in place to replace another match. Now, how do you fall on this whole thing? Because you take a wrestler, you put him in a situation that's over his head. Is it the promoter's fault? Is it the wrestler's fault? Which the wrestler probably wants to please a promoter. He's doing everything he can to be a good soldier. Doesn't want to have a reputation of saying no. Who do you put the blame on? Let's say David Arquette got seriously hurt in this situation. Do you blame David Arquette or do you blame the promoter?
That's a good question. See, now let's pretend his name's not David Arquette and he's just some guy, right?
Okay.
Training to be a wrestler. At this point in his career, how much training he's had and where he's at, and him still being green to the actual wrestling business, like actually working matches. If he wasn't David Arquette, if he was any other person at the same level of knowledge of where he's at right now in wrestling and his training, he wouldn't even be in a regular match, I don't think, let alone a death match. So, but since he's David Arquette, you kind of like push him through and be like, yeah, we can get you through a match. You know, we can have you work with some guys that, not saying that David's bad because he, you know, I mean, he's looking pretty good in the ring. Yeah. But, you know, a regular person wouldn't have been in that, like somebody that's not David Arquette wouldn't be at that, in that level or anything. So he's living off his name value. He knows that, but he's trying really hard to actually, you know, be a professional wrestler. So now you put him in this death match. I don't know who approached who. Okay. The promoter probably approached him and was like, hey, you want to be in this death match? And then, you know, so that's the promoter's fault. Like, David's too green to be able to know how to protect himself because all the guys he's wrestled so far, like I remember being at the Border City Wrestling show, they walked through like his Hurricane Ranas and his dive off the top and stuff, making sure that he was safe and protected. So the promoter's not putting David in a protected way unless like he's like, hey, you know, to whoever he wrestled, like, you know, let's walk through some stuff. Let's make sure we're careful and stuff like that and so on and so forth. And then it's David's fault to be like, you know, biting off more than he can chew as well. So it's a little bit of both. Like, there's no way I feel like there was no way he should have been in that, or they should have at least toned it down or made sure that, you know, he was taken care of. And I don't know if his opponent was like, you know, I don't know if like he even wanted to wrestle David Arquette. He was like, what am I doing? Like, this is a joke, you know. Like, I've been doing death matches for however many years, and now I have to wrestle David Arquette. How could he stand a chance against me? So maybe the guy that he wrestled was like, this is an insult to me, and he felt insulted. I don't know. So I don't know the whole situation, but I'd say it's a little bit of everybody's fault in that one.
Boy, I'm one of these people that I don't like to let someone off the hook. But in this situation, I would put this squarely on the promoter. As a fan, outside guy looking in, there's no way, and you said at the beginning, there's no way any smart promoter would put David Arquette in this kind of situation, knowing his experience. I think this is a case of a promoter had a show. One of his big name guys got injured, and he had to fill something fast. I worry. And maybe I'm going to take heat with saying this, but I feel like this promoter, whoever it is, put profits over people. And
yeah, most promoters do that. They're like, what's going to make, like, I've been involved in like, okay, I'll take it to when Billy Corgan used to have his wrestling promotion, that Resistance Pro. He's like, I want to do matches that people have never seen before. And there's usually a reason why people have never seen these matches, probably because they don't make sense. So the first match I was in, it was like me versus, was it Colt Cabana? Or maybe Colt Cabana when he does his alter ego Matt Classic. And I was in there with Necro Butcher. Now, I mean, there's never going to be any circumstance where a high flyer like myself should be wrestling Necro Butcher, who's a deathmatch guy. But, you know, what's good is that Necro Butcher's been around for long enough where he can actually, you know, do professional wrestling moves and do a professional wrestling match. He can do that. It's just his thing is death match. Now, if the promoter had said to us, like, hey, we're going to do a hardcore match like Necro Butcher, I'd been like, no, man, that doesn't make sense. Like, Necro could do our style and go. But, I mean, that's a match that, like, you would, I don't know if anybody would even want to see it. It would be kind of awkward to see. And that's what we did. So, I mean, sometimes matches are made because promoters are like, man, this is so great. We've never seen anything like this. You know, and it's a big marketing ploy. And it worked because everybody's like, David Arquette in a death match? That doesn't make sense. But, hey, I got to see this. And then you saw what happened.
I think it made news for all the wrong reasons. And I like David. And maybe that might be why I'm not coming down hard on him. But let's be honest. If someone came to me and said, hey, let's say Scott D'Amore calls me and for whatever reason. Not that Scott D'Amore even knows my phone number. Scott D'Amore calls me and says, "Hey, Dennis, I know you've been tagging along with PD. I know you're eager to do something, but I've got an idea for you. Scott, what is it? What if Congo Kong picks you up and throws you into the audience?" I go, "I'm going to do it because it's a dream. I don't want to become a wrestler. I've always wanted to be on a show. Let's not kid ourselves. I know I'm not qualified to be hurled through the air and caught. I don't know the first thing of how to maneuver my body. Do I need to put my legs up or tilt my head side? I don't know, but I'm not going to say no."
So if Scott asks you to do that and say you get hurt,
right?
Whose fault is that?
I think
that's the question.
I think that would fall on. Good point. God darn
it's
you.
Both of your faults, kind of, sort of. So here's the thing. Always in professional wrestling. So if Scott were to approach you with something like that, hey Dennis, we want maybe you're already a character on the show or something, or you had whatever, but you're not trained to wrestle. And like, hey, we're gonna have Congo Kong throw you in the crowd. Okay, he'll probably say something like, first he would never ask you to do that because that's ridiculous, but he'd probably ask you something like, "Do you feel comfortable with that?" And then you saying like you don't want to say no because that's what happens in pro wrestling. You don't want to say no because you're trying to get in, right? You don't want to be that guy that's like, "Oh, he's difficult to work with," even though it was a safety concern. So you go, "Yeah, we'll walk through it and stuff. Yeah, I'm all game, Scott. Great." So, it's partially, it would be Scott's fault because he put you in a situation knowing that you're not going to say no, but he's still throwing it out there. Do you feel comfortable? And then when you do get hurt, well, he said he felt comfortable with it. So, but it's also your fault for being like, "Hey, not saying, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this. I feel like I might get hurt." So, like I said, that's why I feel like in this case with David Arquette, it's both of their faults. Like the promoter asking and David not going like, he knows he's only going to have so many opportunities.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. And I'm not putting words into David's mouth or trying to change the situation, right? What if Scott comes to me and says, "Hey, I think this would be cool. Do you want to do it?" And I go, "Well, Scott, I'm not trained. I would love to do it, but I'm not trained." And Scott goes, "Don't worry, we'll take care of you." Now, is it still my fault?
Now it's Scott's fault.
Okay. That's and I don't know if that happened in the Arquette situation.
We don't know what happened. So
right.
That's why I'm like, I'm not putting the blame because we don't know how the conversation went. We don't know if the promoter was like, "David, you got to do this, man. If you don't do this, everybody's going to think you're a wuss." You don't know what happened. And David, you don't know if David approached him and be like, "Hey, man, I'll step in for that death match." And the promoter was like, "I don't know, man." And he's like, No, I think I could do it. You're like, we don't know what happened. So that's why it was a situation where I think, as it stands from us outsiders looking in, it was a little bit of everybody's fault. If we knew the whole situation, then we could really figure out whose fault it was.
But yeah, I'm going to still say it's the promoter's fault because that's how I started this argument, even though you've made a lot of great points here, and I just don't feel like I should change my point.
Okay, you don't have to.
And finally, before we go and send this to the Young Bucks interview, which I know everybody's waiting on, every word I say, they're like, "All right, already, can we move on?" I just want to say congratulations to Tommy Dreamer, who now has his own podcast, PD, and I feel like this is a direct shot at you.
It is. He told me that. He texted me. He's like, "Hey, I have a podcast. It's better than yours. And I'm never going to be a guest on your podcast because I have my own podcast. And I'm doing this in spite of you. And as soon as you quit your podcast, then I'll have nothing else to prove and I could quit mine." So that's what he said. I was reading that off of a text he sent me.
Now, is he going to invite you on his?
What's that?
Is he going to invite you on his?
Probably not. He's going to be like, "What, PD, you're not coming on my podcast."
PD who?
Yeah. What if we podcasted each other at the same time? You ever see those prank calls where like you have like two I don't know Chinese delivery houses and you put them on the phone with each other and
right.
They're trying to order and stuff? I think there was like a prank call like that one time. What we were podcasting at the same time as Tommy. I was Tommy's guest, and Tommy was also our guest, and we just always ask questions back and forth, and we never get answers. That'd be hilarious.
It's called a simulcast.
It's called a simulcast?
Yes.
But isn't there like in a simulcast, isn't there an actual guest and you take turns or is that not right?
I don't know. I think it's two networks airing one product, and however they do it, they do it.
We should look into that.
Do you have anything to promote? I actually do.
Well, you know what? What's funny is for some reason, I don't know why this got in my head, but I activated my Instagram account. I'm trying to I'm trying to think why I did that. I don't know if somebody brought up something, and then I said, I think my brother-in-law was talking about Instagram at Thanksgiving, and I said, you know what? I said, let me get back on this, just like that. It was at Thanksgiving dinner. And then I just signed back in, and then I posted, I think, a couple pictures since last week. And, excited to be back on Instagram.
No, congratulations. I was recently asked to be a guest on a podcast. If you guys get a chance, go check it out. It's Revisionist Booking. It's actually a really cool thing, Petey, where you take an old pay-per-view, you talk about the world of wrestling around it, and then you rebook that pay-per-view using the people who were on that show.
Which one did you guys do?
Oh, man, it was WWE 1996 King of the Ring, I believe. That was the famous Austin 316 line.
Oh, how do you... That'd be... Okay. So if I was rebooking that, I wouldn't rebook it because that was, the start of the Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, I mean, how do you rebook that?
Can I tell you something? You and I have not talked about this until right this second, right?
Yeah.
I might have been the worst podcast guest ever because when they were asking me to rebook it, I said, I'm not touching any of the King of the Ring tournament stuff because that was perfect.
Yeah, I mean...
I know, right? So I'm sure they were like, what? Oh, come on.
Well, I mean, how do you do it? It was like Jake the Snake, who was like recovering, alcoholic and
Bible thumper.
Bible because of the AA stuff, and then Stone Cold said, "Hi, I want 316," Bible rep. Like, I mean, it was almost like I don't know if that's what WWE was going for, but that's what they got out of it. And then Stone Cold was born. So I mean, how do you really touch that? And I mean, there was only 4 people at that point on the show. So I mean. It's Stone Cold against I don't remember who his opponent was against, and then on the other bracket it was I believe Jake the Snake and whoever. So I mean, you can't really rebook that.
The first match, because Stone Cold wrestled twice that night, he opened the show wrestling Mark Marrow.
Okay,
and then he wrestled. Boy, I want to say maybe that was it. I don't quite remember off the top of my head now, but it's a very cool podcast if you guys get a chance. And then tomorrow night, Friday night. If you get a chance, I will be a guest on Wrestle Talk in the D, 8 p.m. Eastern. Go to blogtalkradio.com, Wrestle Talk D, I believe it is, or just Google it. But I'm the guest, and I'll probably tweet out a leak or something after that's done. So I'm excited. People are starting to ask me to come on their podcast now.
No, that's great. That's good. That's what you wanted, right? So, I mean, we're there.
All right. So should we give the fans what they want?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we usually do here on this podcast anyway, so let's give them what they want.
All right, Petey, here we are, Wrestling Perspective, what everybody has been waiting for. I got to be honest with you, Pete, you have outdone yourself today.
Hey, this one's like probably, I'm so excited. This is my favorite guest to have on right now. Not one, but we got both of them, 2 of the best guys in the business right now, Nick and Matt. The Young Bucks, man. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good, man. What a sweetheart, first of all. Holy crap.
I love you guys.
We like being put over, so that was perfect. Now I don't regret taking this phone call, man.
Oh, you will.
See, it's perfect that you guys said that because, okay, this is what I got to say. So you guys have this, arrogance about you, but it's done in a way that makes people... not hate you. That actually makes them like you even more. And that's super rare in the business. And I see what I mean? And that's why I love hanging out with you guys.
It's a trust. Yeah, we do it as a joke, but half thinking it's not a joke. Yeah. I've worked myself into a shoot at this point because I think at first it was kind of me working, but now it's just become my personality. So, like, my wife will be like, what'd you just say to me? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I got to cut it off. I got to shut it off. You know?
Yeah, man. You can't do that at home. All right. Well, with all that being said, now, I retired, like, when you guys got super popular, I was retired for 3 years. Like, I saw you guys at, like, House of Hardcore, and then all of a sudden I come back 3 years later, and you guys are, like the biggest thing on the wrestling scene anywhere. So, like, what was that? What happened? What was the turning point, like, where it just happened? To me, it looked like an overnight success, but you guys were, like, I know, building towards this. So what was the big turning point?
Yeah. I think it was the Bullet Club because as soon as that happened, things just exploded for us. Everyone wanted to book us, and our price went up. The merchandise went crazy. I feel like Bullet Club was the first thing that helped out.
Yeah, if I'm going to add to it, I think New Japan was going through this strong point where people were kind of discovering it, and once we went to Japan, we kind of took our independent fans from the U.S. With us to Japan. Did we lose the call?
No.
Okay, we're still here.
We're here.
Okay. Nick gave me a look like I'm like, what? I'm driving, by the way, right now. But yeah, I think the New Japan thing happened, and then like things like pro wrestling tees really helped escalate what we look like as stars, perception-wise, getting into Hot Topic, getting our own Funko Pops. You know, like it was really a collection, a series of really fortunate events that helped spark things, and we just so happened to have like a really strong body of work in those 3 years, I think. Like, and a lot of people talked about our matches, and social media got really popular, I think, during that time, and we knew how to utilize that as a lot of things. Like Nick and I never really quit. Like once we felt it getting bigger, we just put our foot on the gas, and we never stopped to this day, you know. And we're just very fortunate, man. Like that things have worked out the way it has.
Right
like
place, right time.
Yep. Yep.
Pete, I want you to ask your next question because you've got to knock this out because this is a fight Petey and I have every day when it comes to booking this podcast.
What's the question?
Well, Pete, how uncomfortable you are with asking your friends.
That's right. So, hey, guys, I always feel like, I don't know how you guys are, but I always feel like super weird when I ask my friends and other wrestlers to be a guest on my podcast. I always feel like I'm bothering them. So do you guys feel the same way when you guys ask like the other guys to be on Being the Elite?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Same feeling, I believe. I don't know. It's always weird asking for favors from friends. And you know how wrestlers are. We're all weird. We all have that same mentality. But when it comes down to it, if you're friends with him, he'll do it. You know what I mean? And
right. And that's the way the business works. Like, right? Like you do a good thing for someone that's a good guy, and it all kind of comes around and goes around. And like, it's kind of like how it works in Hollywood too. You know what I mean? Like, as far as working with your friends and doing movies together, or doing each other's podcasts or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's a favor, but it also does something for us as well. Like, we get to tell our story. We get to communicate with you. We haven't talked to you in who knows how long. Probably last time we saw you at ROH, you know? And so it's fun, man. But I totally get, you get that weird feeling in your stomach, like, oh, I got to ask for something. Like, but really, like, if it's someone you like and you're friends with them, man, it's the least we can do for each other. Let's help each other out, you know?
That's interesting. So that leads into my next question for you guys on Being the Elite. At what point in your show run did it pick up from where you were asking wrestlers to come on to wrestlers coming up to you guys and saying, hey, do you have a spot for me on your show?
That's a good question. What would you say? Like,
oh, man. Yeah, well, probably around that. And the first guy to do it was Marty Skrull. He noticed that it was gaining a lot of momentum, and he started riding with us all around Ring of Honor cities. And so he was probably the first guy who asked me to be on the show.
Yeah, but he did it sneakingly though. So we were like, wait a minute, do you want to actually be our friend, or are you just trying to get on our YouTube show? And then from that point, like in the 50s, the show started getting popular, and it became kind of at first it was like people would roll their eyes and be like, these guys are filming again. To when it got popular, everyone was like trying to get into on the shots. Like, can I be on the shot? Can I be on a PT? Like, we would have people just say, hey, you know, if you have any ideas for me, that'd be great. I'd love to be on the show. And to the point now, it's like we have to duck into rooms because a lot of the boys come up to us and they're pitching ideas to be on the show. So it's like it's become like we're the creative team, and people are coming up to us and pitching us creative ideas just to be on our silly web series.
Oh,
but I totally get that.
We pick up. Yeah. I mean, people see that if you go on our show and we give you, you know, a nice little story arc for 10 episodes, it actually really helps. Like, it helps the viewer get to know who you are. You know, like you're not just a guy in the ring doing moves anymore, performing moves. Now they know a little bit more about you. And that's what we've done with the show is we've kind of highlighted our character's personality.
Yeah, Flip Gordon is a perfect example of that. He's probably benefited the most off the show because he was well unknown, 2 years ago, and he started going on our show, and everything went up for him. And he gives us a lot of credit for that, and he's been great to work with.
And how about Hangman Page? He's another guy. Or even like SCU, like with Daniels and Kazarian, it's like they've had a career resurgence because of this show.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like we're just giving these guys the platform, but they're going out there and they're the ones killing it, and with their dialogue and their acting or whatever they're doing with their ideas for their bits. And it's like a collaboration, man. Like, we have so much fun doing the show, and it's really become like the highlight of our career.
We have more fun doing that than wrestling now.
I don't blame you.
man, not even being on the Elite Pete would help you get back over.
Hey, I'm not even gonna. Who says I'm not over, Dennis?
You can't even get booked on Impact.
Oh.
Hey, you write the show.
Hey, yeah. So speaking of which, hey, how about you guys just since we're speaking open right now, just drop everything you guys are doing and just come back to Impact, man. I'm working there again, Sanjay. Just come back. No, seriously. What happened? I know. I mean, I remember the match of the night, the match of the century, me and Sanjay against you two, probably a match that nobody saw. We just did everything in that match.
Oh, yeah. That was great. Yeah,
that's right. That's a forgotten match, man.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've ever seen it back, but, man, we did everything possible in that, 10-minute match.
It's hard for those one-night-only shows. Nobody really saw them, you know what I mean?
No. Hey, but what happened, with your Impact run? What was, how did it end? I don't even know, because I wasn't there when it happened. How did it all end for you guys?
They split us up, and we became a singles act for 2 months, and then for no reason at all, we got back together, and nothing was explained by it. And after that, Matt and I were like, these guys don't care about us at all. So we felt like at that point the writing was on the wall for us at that place, and so we were thinking, hey, maybe we go elsewhere and come back here and then they'll take us serious. That was our thoughts at the time, but it was just a little bit of everything that happened.
Yeah, we had run bad deals too.
Yeah.
It was our first contract we'd ever signed. So we've learned a lot since then, but it was the first contract we'd ever been offered. So immediately, without negotiating, we just signed it blindly. And it was a bad deal, and basically we were getting paid per appearance. And they decided to sit us at home for very long periods of time, which meant we were literally making $0 some months.
I remember some weeks they would fly one of us in that wasn't even working on the show, and so we would be in Florida and not being paid because they forgot to book us.
That's right.
But they would have us fly there, and we're like, wait a minute, I'm flying here. Doesn't that count as work? and they were like, nope, you got to be on TV to make money. So there's a few times where we flew there and didn't get paid.
Yeah, there was just, and it's different now. Obviously, the whole team's changed, and it's a different structure. But back then, it was a mess, man. We didn't know who's in charge of what. I had to keep getting on Terry Taylor, who was talent relations at the time. I had to keep getting on his case every couple weeks, like demanding where my check was. I had to pay rent, and my checks weren't coming on time. It was just bad, and we were at the point where we were like, listen, we're young. We know we're good. We need to leave this place because it's obviously not working out here. And like Nick said, maybe we can come back here in a couple of years and they'll see more value in us and we can sign a better deal this time.
It was the best decision we ever made. I remember the next year we had made more money just doing the independent than we did the TNA contract. So,
you know, we spoke there on low times. I just want to talk about the high times because you guys are probably one of the linchpins here in changing the independent scene. This is probably, if you look back and compare it to any other year, this might be, from independence to the top promotion, the best year ever in wrestling. A lot of people, tweet, text, send you emails about when are you going to the WWE, and that's not going to be my question. My question for you is, the more that you grow the Young Bucks legend through everything else, and the more that you have control, do you know it in the moment of what you're doing to the landscape of independent wrestling? Or is it something when somebody comes up to you guys and said, can you believe because of you guys, now everybody can do all this amazing stuff?
Right. Man, like, it's hard to take it all in because we're currently living through it, right? So, like, you don't really know the exact effects. Like, you can feel it because, like you said, the fans tell you and the boys tell you and you read about it, and it's humbling, but at the same time, it's hard to accept and hard to know really how giant the impact has been. But, yeah, I feel like we're pretty self-aware of what we've come cultivate and create these past couple of years, especially because we're kind of at the forefront of this. And I think a lot of the boys and a lot of fans, they look to my brother and I as a symbol of hope that, hey, anyone can do it if these two guys can do it. Because we had our struggles and ups and downs, and we never had to really go sell out to a big corporation. We did it DIY. I feel like we're a big symbol for doing it yourself. For getting the job done and never having to actually go to someone and say, listen, and convince that guy, hey, I'm good. We just convinced ourselves we were good. You know what I mean? And that's a powerful thing to have. Like for entrepreneurs, for people who are deciding to possibly start their own businesses, like people text me, tweet me every day and say, your story has given me hope. And I just quit my miserable job that I hated for years and I'm going to go into business for myself because of what you have done. And like when I hear stories like that, it blows me away. I'm just like, wow, like that's the impact that I wanted to leave on professional wrestling. Like in the beginning, it was I just want to have a great match. I want to have the best match. Now it's become so much more than that. We're change the rest of it. We talk about being the elite, and we want to change the world, and that's what we mean. We want to change the world for a positive. We want to make it a better place. We want to teach people and show people you can truly do anything on your own. Like we have a children's book and we say you can be elite at anything if you have a big heart, right? Like you can. Like, and it's funny because you hear that your whole life from adults and people who have made it, quote unquote, make it. And we've made it, and we've done it without, like I said, having to go corporate and going to sell out. Like we've done it, and I think that we've had such a positive influence on the boys that if we were to go now at this point, I don't know if that would kill the boom or crush the dreams of people, even if they don't realize it. Like I think we do realize we give them hope, and I think if we did something like that now, I don't know how that would impact the industry. I think people would kind of be let down.
I actually agree. We talked about this a few months ago when the rumors were hot and heavy about you guys jumping ship and going somewhere else. And I kind of said that you guys have become cult legends, and it's almost like Bob Dylan in his heyday where all of a sudden Bob Dylan's doing these amazing folk songs, and tomorrow you find out that he's signed a huge record deal and he's doing massive stadiums now, that your fan base and this is, I'll be delicate the way I say this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but your fan base might be kind of fragile, built on the, we're the working man's man, that when you go to a larger corporation or sell out or go corporate, that they may not follow you there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you're really speculating. We noticed a lot of fans were turning on us because I think like you said, like they look to us as influencers as a sign of hope. So when rumors start circulating, and they still are, to be honest, about us going elsewhere, it breaks their hearts, and it concerns us too. Yeah,
we don't want to make the wrong decision on what we do career-wise, and we're always thinking about our fans because that's how we've gotten to this point of our career.
It makes us really think, though. It's like, well, do you like us mostly because we don't work there? And you wouldn't like us if we went and worked there? Like, what's the main reason you like us? And I think a lot of it is the rebel in people. The people see us as the rebels, right? Like, they see us as the guys that are different. And if you go there, then do we just become like everybody else?
Pete, I know I've got one more question. How about you?
I just got one more, just kind of with that. So let's if I was in your shoes, not that you guys need advice from me, but we're just talking. We're all in a car right now talking, okay? So I would, if I was you guys, I would play it the way kind of AJ Styles played it. AJ Styles is older. He's kind of at the end of his career. He's already done everything he could do, minus the WWE.
Yep.
If I were you guys, I would play everything you can, do everything you can on your own and build that, and then that would just give you more fuel if or when or whenever it is you go to WWE. And you get kind of like, okay, I'll finish off in WWE. That way they can put me in the Hall of Fame, sign me to a Legends contract, and I'm set for life. But what leads me to my next question, let's say all that happens, right? And now you're done professional wrestling. All right. Do you see yourself, after you're done physically wrestling, still being in the business, doing like for example, not that I'm done wrestling, but I'm helping produce at Impact now. Do you guys still see yourself like doing something in the business after you're done wrestling?
Yeah, I think we're so deep into it that it would almost be impossible for us to escape it. So I'm definitely gonna be interested in some type of other job within wrestling.
Yeah.
Traveling wise, though, I think I only got 10 years in me left to do it full time, like I am doing it. But I can definitely see myself doing something behind the scenes. I don't know if Matt.
Yeah, like
the same way.
I think that the pace we've been going for the past, we've been doing this 15 years now, but at this rate, the way we've been doing it, like being on the road as much as we are and doing the matches that we've been doing, 7 years? Like, I don't know how much longer I can do it this way.
Probably 10 years.
There'll come a point where I want a lighter schedule and maybe do a couple matches a year or whatever. But I could definitely see Nick and I being a part of a creative team or helping direct or produce. I think, like Nick said, we're so far down this thing, and the disease is fully taken over my body. I'm a professional wrestler, and I love the business. It's what I love, and it's my passion. So I definitely see us being involved probably for the rest of our lives in some capacity.
Yeah.
As far as physically out there taking the bumps, man, right now, if you ask me, because I have like my neck's bothering me, I go, maybe 5 years. So I don't know, we'll see. I guess it depends on how we stay for the next several years.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to wrap this up with a question that I know is going to be difficult to answer and talk about, but everybody listening wants me to ask this question, so we're going to try to work around this as best as possible, what you guys can talk about. You're under contract, but you recently filed patents for All Elite Wrestling. What can we talk about here about that? Because you're under contract, and it's a tricky situation.
Well, when we did our first show, All In, last September, we closed the show, and not one person left the building. And I remember speaking on the mic. It felt so special, and it felt like more than just a wrestling event. it felt like a religious experience. And I remember asking the fans, do you want more of this? Would you want more of this in an uproar, right? Like, you could just feel it.
The movement.
It's become a revolution. Like, it is a movement. So, like, we knew, like, that night, we sat and as a group, and we talked about the possibility of doing another one. Of course you do, right? Like, after you have a hit movie, you talk about the sequel. So immediately we talked about doing another one. And I think right then and there we knew in some capacity there would be another one eventually. We didn't know if it would be a year from now, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. We didn't know. But we knew that eventually it would happen because we had so much damn fun doing it. So basically, we're in a situation now where we don't exactly know what we're going to do, but we want to protect ourselves in case we decide to do something, right? Like, we want to be proactive, and we want to get ahead of this thing. Cody all said on the mic that we're all sticking together, and we're going to do this thing as a unit. So whatever we do decide to do, we absolutely are going to do this as a team. We're going to do this as the elite, and it's going to be an interesting 2019, man.
Yeah. Like Matt hasn't said, but we have offers on the table from, I'll say it, from every major company in the world. So
and there's investors that want to work with us too. So
there's still a lot to be discussed about. We haven't said really no to anything. So we're just keeping our options open and protecting ourselves at the same time.
One last question, and feel free, because this is recorded, you don't have to answer this. But I'm going to take my shot here. What has Ring of Honor's stance been? Have they been trying hard to push you? Are they accepting and like, hey, look, you're more than welcome to do all this stuff? Where does Ring of Honor, you've had to have talks with them. What is that relationship like now after the patents are filed?
They've been 100% great and supportive, and I can't say enough good things about Joe Koff. I mean, they let us run our own event while we were under contract last year.
And I'll say this: they're still very active in trying to negotiate with us to stay.
Right. I think as far as the ROH part of this is concerned, we've made our decision up, and I don't really want to give that away either because we have a huge storyline on our show being the elite. So I don't want to give away spoilers that we all get these timers that are going off. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about them. Like, these past few years has been the greatest time of my career.
Oh, for sure.
And it doesn't even come close. And it's because of them letting us basically let our hair down and do whatever we wanted. And they've stood by us. So they've been incredible partners. And whatever happens, on January 1st, I'll never take that away.
All right. Well, hey, I can't wait when you guys show up on Impact next week. Spoiler alert. But I'm joking. No, but all seriousness, guys.
What's who the hell knows, man?
Yeah, you just don't know.
Who the hell knows?
But guys, thank you so much, Dennis and I, and especially I'm very grateful you guys. I was able to shoot the breeze with you guys, and you guys took the time to come on here and talk wrestling with us. We just love talking wrestling. And but what do you guys have to promote so our fans can follow you and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Obviously, our T-shirts are over at ProWrestlingTees.com/YoungBucks. We just put out a new children's book that's available, and some of the Hot Topics available. I have it on my Twitter, but we also have merchandise at Hot Topic. Our website is pretty much young.
Yeah, and spoiler alert: we will be at the final day of the tag tournament over in New Japan next week.
Ooh, that's
Wow.
exciting.
And giving away all the good stuff.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. I'm a loose cannon.
Wow. I love it.
Well, yeah. Well, hey, there you have it, guys. So, thanks again so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your drive, and hopefully I'll get to see you guys around soon. Impact Wrestling. Take it easy, guys.
Thanks, boys.